Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Daytona. Welcome to round 4 of the RaceFace.Pro GT3 Championship right here on iRacing. And it's our feature round. It's going to be a great one. And what a circuit to be at. Daytona, steeped in history. Whether you're in for the Daytona 500 that challenges drivers at their absolute limit, or you're a big fan of the Daytona 24 that happens out in January that keeps everyone on their toes. This circuit is able to give everyone everything they want and more. However, the 5.69 kilometer circuit, the 5.6 kilometer circuit is not an easy track, especially in this roval configuration, as you've got the inner loop to deal with and the bus stop that has gone and claimed many of cars throughout history. The bus stop, notorious, especially here in iRacing, going back to this, I would say, going back about five seasons ago, we had the huge curbs that destroyed suspension on even the best of cars. Well, we're here for round 4, and it's our feature round, which means our drivers are going to have to think very, very much on their feet and see where exactly they're going to come out. Last week was Monza combined. Unfortunately, our cameras caught a whole lot of trees and wasn't able to broadcast to the best of our ability, but we are back here, and we are alive and well here at RaceFace.Pro. A phenomenal circuit. With that being said, our drivers are down to qualifying, and as we can take a look at some of the scenic shots that Tim's giving us, it is a bit rainy out there and, well, a little bit on the wetter side for our drivers. No easy time to keep comfortable, no easy time to ensure that you can just carry on racing without a problem, but it is gonna be slip slidey, and it's all about the slipstream in the spray, which is going to definitely challenge our drivers. A massive welcome to everyone, and taking a look over to our virtual grandstands where we have got Steve Pepper, usually one of our drivers here, going and supporting the Cool Camels team, and his son James Pepper, who has been on a stellar run. With that being said, folks, let's head down and see what qualifying looks like, because Steven Vessels currently tops the charts, and after having a great run at Imola with a few complications, he's out to take the fight to the sharp end of the field. Willem Buerta sits in second place, with Johan van Rensburg in third, getting a massive tail slapper through the kink. James Pepper currently leads out the Pro-Am division, with Werner Skuman going and tailing him. Jordan Ill, Chris DeSantos, Justin Elof coming in for a fight. 9th is Yuppie Simons, along with Joshua Syme into that top 10. Mario Augusto, Jan Engelbrecht, Ben England, and Arno Kraus currently round out the pack that have done their flying laps thus far. We've got 15 minutes of qualifying for the drivers before we move into Heat 1, which is a 30-minute race. Our second heat that will be coming up will be a 45-minute race with a mandatory stop. And the drivers are going to really have to think a little bit on their feet to get themselves sorted out. With that being said, though, we've talked about who's where and what's happening currently in qualifying, and while times are coming in, let's take a look at some of the points beforehand, looking at our top 10 in each class. So starting off with our Pro-Am, it's Tommaso Begasso, who currently holds on to first place, 289 points. James Pepper holds on to second, 249 points. 40 points off the pack, but is looking to go and get a victory. Tianas Buerta, along with Johan Engelbrecht, Benjamin England, along with Wesley Lewitt, Kakleko McCarley, Andre de Ries, and Michael Huskin, rounding out our top 10 in the Pro-Am division. Moving on to our pros, though. It is looking a little bit spicy out there with our Pro division. Justin Elof holds on with 285 points. Malcolm Pringle on 283 after missing last round. Werner Skuman in third place on 270 rounds. Warwick Wilson holds fourth ahead of Hendricks. Willem Buerta, John Jans van Rensburg holds on to 7. Steven Vessels, Cameron de Bastos, Joshua Syme, and Zan Carlson rounds out our top 11 that are looking to move themselves forward. Times are coming in, 54s to go for if you want to be in the top 4. At the moment, Jaden Wall leading out the Pro Am division. He's out in the Mercedes at this stage of the game, hoping to see if it's going to help him out. Willem Buerta up to second with his Ford Mustang. Malcolm Pringle follows in the BMW. Steven Vessels also in the BMW. A lot of drivers have been thinking the BMs will have the advantage around this circuit. However, that is to the contrary during practice, where it was leaning more towards the Ferraris, McLarens, and the Lamborghinis that were fighting their way around the circuit. At the moment, though, it's still a brawl to see who can move forward and who is going to stand their way to the top come the end of this qualifying session. Mario Augusto managing to hook a time in and hoping that he can have a stellar run as he navigates his way through the bus stop. And I've got to say, I love the livery where you can see the seating position of a GT3 car on the door. If you had to go and look at some of the older cars, well, it's a bit more upright, or you are laid back in a lazy boy. So it's good to see some interesting liveries coming into play still during the course of the season. All the way out from Cape Town in 14th position on the embankment as he navigates his way around. It's flat out, but you've got to be careful not to have the rear tires slip underneath you and landing up into the wall. You've got to keep it pretty consistent and pretty tight to make it work. However, the slipstream effect does come into play for our drivers, as they have to be so careful not to lose that little bit of momentum and can cost them a fair amount of time. So there's always that little bit of a worry, that little bit of a push, and see who exactly can stay at the top no matter what. And taking a look at Timothy Fulvio going and hoping to get a good time on the board as he comes across the line. He's up into 23rd position with Ben England just ahead of him. Michael Hudson along with Tennis Buerta, Andre de Ries and Mark Pisa have not got a time on the board as yet. The Ford Mustang of Willem Buerta, though, fastest in Sector 2 and fastest in Sector 4. But even though the rain is out, I'm looking at all the grandstands and the raincoats and umbrellas are there, but along with the signs, as we got the Cool Camels team getting a huge support out there, along with the Racing Snails that have been on a stellar charge of late, trying to improve, learn, and get a little bit more up in towards fighting contention yet again. And something we have seen the Racing Snails do with the Cool Camels, going and putting all their cards in, all the eggs in one basket, relying on James Pepper, who is incredibly quick. The youngster knows what he needs to do to stay at the front. But Luca Daines holds on to the top 5 for our Pro-Am. John Jans van Rensburg holds on to second place as more and more drivers trying to up their sector times. Wesley Lewin was up in Sector 2 and 3, but unfortunately down on the rest. Noah Hendricks trying to improve his time, up in Sector 1, Sector 2, down in Sector 3, up in 4, but just can't quite get that pace underneath him to move in all the way into first place. Gets himself within the top 5, but is a driver with the Asymmetric Racing team getting a huge tank slapper on the way through with that Ferrari to keep it all together. Hasn't been an easy drive for him. Only 3 drivers, and oh, that is a big impact. And that looked against Jaden. Was it against Jaden? You'll know that was against one of our other cars. And that might have been Johan Engelbrecht. Yes, it is. That collected the side of that Ferrari, landing up with both of them taking a substantial amount of damage. Back to pit lane they go. Get the car sorted out and back onto circuit. Werner Skuman leaving pit lane. He's trying to get himself ready and going as we get nearer and nearer to the end of our qualifying session, and this is gonna set the bar for Heat 1. Not even Heat 2, because Heat 2 is going to work on finishing positions of the 30-minute race, where there is no pit times there is just running the full 30 minutes. At the moment, Andre de Rees sitting in 24th position ahead of Michael Hudson, who's yet to get a time on the board at the moment, trying harder and harder up in Sector 1, down in all the others, but he's just looking for a valid time to go and put himself on that board. Heading into turn 1, he's able to move up to 17th. Stephen Vessels coming out the box with a 53.4. Jean-Jans van Rensburg with a 53.8. And our drivers heading into the 54s, trying to keep themselves rather close. Wesley Lewin gaining a bit of time. He's up to 9th position behind Chris DeSantos. They're running 54s at the moment. It's incredibly tight in terms of spacing, but the drivers are concerned that the weather is going to play a monster effect. And it's also been an interesting one and a debate with the drivers to see who exactly has got that wet setup that can work out for them without losing too much time. As we jump on board with Wesley Lewin, there is what can happen through the kink. A simple turn in and a little bit of a lift lands up with the car completely sideways, cross-armed, and waiting for it just to slow down with those puddles. You're gonna have to look at an alteration in your racing lines in these conditions, because no longer the ideal racing line is all but going. Unfortunately, that is where a lot of the water is pooling up around the circuit on those apexes, so you're gonna have to take a wide berth through the corners. You have to be so cautious over the curbing, and you got to play within the limits of what you can do. Drivers have been considering for the second heat, possibly when it gets a bit drier, that they can switch out to slicks, but they will be going and dealing with a lot of thoughts of how much space they have to play with. Willem Buerta currently leads out the field. The RDSA esports driver out in the Ford Mustang, 53.2 of a second faster than Stephen Vessels as we get into the closing seconds of this qualifying session. And drivers still looking to give that final push, and Malcolm Pringle gets it wrong like his teammate. This time, unfortunately, bites the wall and going and shifting the teeth on that BMW. That is not what he wanted to have, and unfortunately will put to bed the rest of his qualifying time. As Just Nieloff utilizing the toe, seeing where that's going to help him out at this stage of the game. Cameron de Bastos in 9th position will be the next to come across the line. And has he managed to improve? Remains in 9th place with a 54.54. Improvement on his personal best, but not enough to make the impact. So, as our drivers get ready and get themselves down to the field, I do want to give a bit of a shout out to a driver and commentator that is not here tonight, and that is to Gary Fleming. So Gary, get well soon, buddy. Know that you're busy fighting pneumonia, but we're wishing you well from RaceFace, from all the iRacers, and we're looking forward to hearing your voice very, very soon. Gary Fleming, who is a big supporter of our drivers out here, and does go and occasionally, time to time, come and race with us. It's wonderful to hear from him. Unfortunately, this time is out of action. Willem Buerta will start out in first place here at round 4 at Daytona International Speedway. Stephen Vessels will be in second place with Malcolm Pringle, Justin Elof, Jean-Jans van Rensburg, Noah Hendricks, Lucan Haynes, Chris DeSantos, Cameron de Bastos, and Wesley Lewin rounds out our top 10. A little bit further down is James Pepper, who looks to try and move his way through the order. Jaden Earl holds on to 12th position. 13th is Werner Skuman, along with Joshua Syme, Mario Augusto, Jan Engelbrecht, Rian Porchita, Michael Hudson, Yuppie Simons, Arno Kraus, Jonathan Simon, along with Ben England, Timothy Fulyun, and Hilton Nixon. A little bit further down, rejoining under the Pandacity brand. And after a big hiatus away from sim racing, returns, but has got a lot to prove that he's got the pace underneath him. Andre de Rees holds on to 25th with Tienes Buerta, who will be tailing Hilton Nixon and seeing where he can get the pass. And Mark Pesser rounding out our 27 car grid. here at a very, very damp and a very wet Daytona as our drivers get ready to go behind our safety car. Now it's all about who's got the momentum to move forward, as it's no more about that one-lap wonder. It's a 30-minute heat one, ladies and gentlemen, that they have to contend with, and they'll have to see where it works out for them. However, they've got to be so cautious on and off throttle as there's still puddles around the circuit. You can see a little bit of that spray coming up behind the cars, and that is a clear dictation that the drivers have got a bit of caution underneath their belt. It's good to see Nick Haynes, who currently leads out the Pro-Am, but the question is, can he hold on to it as they make their way through? Anything can happen here tonight. And take a look at the compounds that they're using. Michael Hudson, Joshua Syme opting for dry tires versus the rest using wet tires. Now that may help them out, but I think for a cold track and a damp circuit, they've got a little bit of hard work underneath them to ensure they stay at the top. So the drivers now start to close up behind the car, 82 kilometers an hour, and will be running side by side and will be under starters orders for the green. Everyone having to take that little bit of caution. Safety car dives in, even gets a tank slapper on the way in. Jim, got to be careful sliding the car as we go green, green, green here at Daytona. Justin Eloff with a stunning start, trying to split them down the middle. Gets squeezed out by Steven Vessels and Willem Buerta, who make it incredibly hard. And we got contact in the back. Contact in the back, and that looks like it was James Pepper who went through the field. And I'm not quite sure if he got into a little bit of a problem there. Let's quickly take a look at what happened. So James Pepper had contact from Jaden Hill by the looks of it, and got spun round in through the field. Jaden coming through. It doesn't look like the Aston Martin scored too much damage, but that is not what he wanted to have for the start. And unfortunately, quite a few cars landed up getting spun round in that mix. Not where you want to go. Jan Engelbrecht a little bit further back, going and thinking, okay, not quite my plan there, and hoping to stay up towards the front. There is Jaden Hill, who looked like he had that rear end contact to James Pepper as he got on the round pedal and just came across. Now it's all about who can make up the time after a bit of a miserable start. Unfortunately, that's also changed it quite a bit. Wesley Lewin further down the order from where he wants to be. Rian Polkita a little bit further down the order, and it does look like we have lost Lucan Haynes, who was one of the top running Porsches, is now at the back of the field having to play catch up. After a bit of a chaotic start, he dives up ahead of Joshua Syme, who gets it sideways, and Joshua, unfortunately, a drive-through penalty that he needs to serve. He's got a black flag and he will have to see where that goes. Jonathan Simon, unfortunately, into pit lane, trying to pick up the pieces of his race. They do have a fast repair to work with. The question is, when are they going to be able to utilize it? Willem Buerta keeping ahead of Steven Vessels. Got Justin Eloff all over the back of him. Just behind, they got Jaden Muirlander braking into turn one. Steven Vessels closes up, and it's the Mustang that gets it out of shape, and contact! Steven Vessels slowed it up and unfortunately got contact in the rear. That created a concertina effect, and Justin Eloff into the front bashed out that car, and that is not how he wanted his race to go. All looking fine until it all went wrong. Jaden Ewell falling down after once again a turn one. Willem Buerta, meatball flag, needing to pull the piss. Rian Polkita as well. That means the lead of the Pro-Ams has been handed to Chris DeSantos of Logistical Nightmare Racing Team as he looks to try and close up to Noah Hendricks. Malcolm Pringle leads out the pack. Steven Vessels, Jan van Rensburg, along with Justin Eloff, who's sporting a bit of damage on that nose, is going to feel that top end starting to fall away from him. Werner Skuman making up some time. Mario Augusto, Wesley Lewin, Ben England, along with Andre de Ries, Willem Buerta, all trying to move forward. Andre onto the back of Ben England, looking to try to keep in that slipstream. Looked around the outside. Has he got the momentum in the Porsche to get it done? Unfortunately, not caught in the spray. Trying to duck back out, spot these brake markers a little bit early into the bus stop to try and make it all work without going into the back. Luke Haynes, Joshua Simon, Tiernas Buerta, James Pepper, Jan Engelbrecht, Rian Polskeeter, Michael Hudson, and Jonathan Sun round out the pack that are sitting in pit lane. As Willem Buerta nursing a car back to the pits. Here's Jan Newell fighting out with Timothy Fulyoun. Timothy holding the inside line, and Jaden trying to go around the outside to see if it's going to work out for him. A tough break for a lot of drivers out here, but it's not over yet. With a fast repair, they can get those cars back out on circuit and try and make up the time and see what they can do. As the fastest lap set by Andre de Vries all the way down the order in 12th. He's on the back of Ben England, but the fight towards the top rages on. Cameron de Bastos having a look to see if he can square past the likes of Justin Eloff, who's got that damage to the nose. Justin outbrakes himself, loses out. Cameron says thank you very much there. He sets his sight on the two teammates. Pringle and Van Rensburg ahead of him. Eloff getting back into the tow. Noah Hendricks slightly off the run. Willem Buerta exiting pit lane. And that's what I love to see. If you got the green, you got to see the checkered. You got to get back out there. Yes, stuff hasn't worked out, but it isn't over until the fat lady sings. It isn't over until you get across the line. And there is a number of drivers that really know this all too well. Steve Pepper knows it all too well. He'll be on the comms to James and saying, come on James, get that car back out there. Let's get the cool camel back out there and try and make up some points in this race and get ourselves in a better position for Heat 2, because the finishing positions in Heat 1 will dictate where they start in Heat 2 and how it's all going to work out for them. Reese managing to get a better exit than Ben England, was able to carry the momentum through. But here is the fight between the teammates. Pringle and Van Rensburg having a chat to one another as they watch Steven Vessels start to open up that gap down to a 53.6. Rest of the field sitting in the 54s as they head into turn 1. Coming out of pit lane, Jan Engelbrecht along with Joshua Syme. Now out of the pits, Joshua going and keeping a good bit of momentum out there, but it's Jan Engelbrecht who mines out for the field, allows him to come through. That opened up a little bit of room for Eloff to have a shot at Cameron de Bastos and see who can move forward. And I've just got a little bit of information, and I need to then really update this. Andre de Vries sits in the Racing Snails team, and he is out fighting. He's up 14 positions from where he started in this race, and it's good to see. Now it's wonderful. I'm gonna ask Zootflyer to send me a list of the drivers in his team, or in the team, just to let me go. I'm gonna sort it out as we see Justin Eloff getting ahead of Cameron Bastos, who get a little bit of light. Malcolm Pringle losing a little bit of time there. Justin Eloff tucks in behind, trying to see where he moves forward. Willem Buerta, unfortunately, making a mistake. Here comes Cameron down the inside. New set of pedals on him, so he's still trying to get used to a new set of hardware. And Justin Eloff, oh, massive mount over the curb. That is a flying bull. Not often you get to see it through the bus stop. And both drivers having to give a little bit of a lift, allowing Noah Hendricks to start closing up the gap. This is incredibly quick between them as the track is still soaking wet out there. It's all a matter of just keeping it together as the two teammates, Pringle and Van Rensburg, starting to have a go. Steven Vessels has cleared out through the field. He's happy to just keep the charge on. Eloff going a long way around while you see Cameron Bastos tuck in on the inside. That's now going to give Eloff the drive. Heading into turn 3. Dives for the inside. Cameron sweeps out, trying to spot his opportunity, and gets caught up between the fighting duo ahead of him. Pringle and Van Rensburg having a go. And while that's all happening, Noah Hendricks slowly but surely has been closing. And another Pandacity driver that we haven't spoken much about. Oh, just as we cut to it. Sorry, Werner. Going and giving commentators curses as he went through the kink. Beautiful save, but definitely a cross arm, trying to keep it all together. Breaks off that train and now needs to think, what can he do? Chris DeSantos, Wesley Learn, Augusto Moreno, Andre De Ries, and Ben England currently holding on for dear life in the Pro-Am field. Only driver that is sitting in pit lane is James Pepper. Michael Hudson, unfortunately, didn't even start this race and needs to figure out when he can get back out. Cameron de Bastos going on the attack. Malcolm Pringle switch inside, outside, back to inside. Couldn't quite get on the bus stop. McLaren trying to close up on the BMW. That is synonymous of doing well in the weights. He's going to just have to keep it all together. That's allowed John Jans from Rensburg to open up the distance. Van Rensburg, coming from dirt oval racing, is no stranger to having mixed or no grip. However, is relying on his teammate to play the long game here to help out. If you're going to fight me, get around me. Otherwise, let's work together to try and hold back the field. And with Cameron de Bastos getting held back that a little bit more, that's allowing Justin Eloff to get back into the mix. Yellow flags coming in for Hilton Nixon, unfortunately. Let's quickly take a look at what happened to Hilton Nixon. And this looked like a dive around the outside, no grip, and just lost the rear end. Unfortunately, too late on the anchors, going into a puddle, and that's all she wrote, unfortunately, to get that car turned around. A little bit of damage, and now has to pick the pieces up. Willem Buerta also having a bit of a nightmare of a time after starting on the front row, all the way down into 19th position. 18 positions from where he started. Now having to try and figure out what's going to work for him. How can he close up the difference? As we jump on board with Cameron Bastos, you can see the counter steering needed in these cars just to keep it on track. They do run the ABS and traction control slightly lower than planned. The reason why for that is to try and feel the car a bit more. They're not wanting that sluggish behavior. They want to feel the car moving around just a little bit more so it doesn't catch him out as quickly. You can see the difference of the BMWs naturally in through the corners, able to take the curbs unless you're going and ramping it. You're trying to be an MX professional like Malcolm Pringle at the moment, who have a very, very interesting way towards it. There is Willem Buerta, unfortunately, who spun off, waited for the field. He's down on the apron and just allowing the cars to come through before he rejoins. Noah Hendricks and Justin Eloff now having a go at one another. They fight a little bit further down as Hendricks holds on for 5th place with Justin Eloff, who was originally on the attack, now going and losing that little bit of time as our drivers maintain their way through. We also getting some interesting information coming in, and this is from Zoot Fly. Thank you very much. Please do send it on Discord. I'd love to hunt it down. Let me know that Luke and Haynes, Rian Porfita, Jonathan Simon, Andre Reese are our snails and carrying the snails flag tonight. There is a couple of more that are waiting to rejoin. They've just been turned into escargot for this evening. As we do see Jane York with a bit of damage to the nose, unfortunately runs wide, and Ben England giving a little bit of a lean there, saying, okay, let's get you sorted out and fight your way through. And the Racing Snails coming in from ACC, LMU, and iRacing. The Racing Camels, however, started in iRacing with the Peppers originally putting things together in a league called Limit of Adhesion. And it wasn't even called Cool Camels Racing. Cool Camels is actually a company that does motorsport memorabilia. And it's always wonderful to go and see it out there, and drivers having a bit of fun. Slowpoke Racing, along with having Van Rensburg and Pringle at the helm in their two cars. There's been a long-standing run in iRacing. Various flags both drivers drivers have managed to go and do well. The question is, they need to now carry the momentum forward. On across the team trial, getting the head of Mark Messer, who drops up to the top. And the reason for that is just providing that little bit of room for Arno to get on by with his Mustang, doing a brilliant job out there. Arno across, going and racing ACC, iRacing, and LMU all in the same seasons has made it tricky. Spoken to the driver, and to get used to the braking models can be a little bit tricky. The GT3s all round do feel a little different, but that's what keeps the challenge. That's what he enjoys, and that's how he stays in for the fight. Werther into the pits, doing a bit of repair work to his car. Pepper still waiting there. Cameron de Bastos on the back of Van Rensburg. Lost a lot of time. Now Noah Hendricks starting to close up the gap between them. This is our closest fight at the moment, and it's a fight for the final step of the podium. We haven't even reached the halfway point at this stage of the game, and drivers are getting in that big, hard push, trying to move forward. With open setups and full tanks, they are able to really stretch their legs. The question is, who has got enough in the tank mentally to keep these cars out on the circuit with these very, very greasy conditions? It is a little maybe on the greasy side. The drivers are having to constantly work harder and harder to keep it going. Yellow flags once again coming out for Hilton. Nixon, let's quickly take a look here on our EG Evolved Simulator Rigs replay. Hilton dives into turn 1, runs out wide, clips the puddles, turns the car around, stuck on the apex. Not quite what you want to have for the McLaren driver as he versus and gets himself going. Not exactly how he wanted his race. A little fight that's brewing up between two Mercedes, however, is Jaden Earl, the Monza team, and Werner Skuman of the Pendacity. Werner Skuman in the Pro Division, way off the pack, but after a chaotic start, hasn't been on a great run thus far, and now it has to fight out against Januel, who has got a lot of pressure on the back of him, keeping nice and close in that slipstream, and that is providing a little bit of a hand as well, as he's got damage to the front end of that nose, meaning he's down on straight end power, just keeping tucked in. Means that he can pull himself along. Ooh, looks like a little bit of bump draft, and that was Werner Skuman getting clipped, touches the wall, brings himself back, feeling that little bit of an impact. Surely not going to be the happiest camper on that one, but will now need to think, what can he do to make up that difference? How can he go and close up the difference yet again? And Januel pushing harder and harder, unfortunately, not having the easiest time out there, going and landing up in a few incidents I do think will be under review during the course of this race. Back up to our final position, and it looks like Malcolm Pringle running into a bit of a problem. That allowed his teammate John Youngster Rensburg and Cameron de Bastos come on by. Cameron looking down the inside as they come into the bus stop, but it is gonna be a huge fight. Van Rensburg keeps a solid push at the moment to try and move forward to Steven Vessels 3.6 seconds up the road, moving closer to Malcolm Pringle, and the duo have now been split. Cameron putting pressure on the back of that BMW, trying to see where exactly can he get on by. Nose to tail, looks around the outside. Van Rensburg holds the inside, something he knows all too well, and it's done well for his championship in sim and real life to just make people work that little bit harder. Leaning on Cameron de Bastos, got the pass done, and now Malcolm given an option to get back into the fray. Noah Hendricks sees an opportunity as well as our top four close to one another. Cameron sends it down the inside, couldn't quite get that stop sorted out, understeered a bit. Van Rensburg straightened up the steering wheel, and a little bit of a, hey buddy, that could have ended seriously badly there. Malcolm Pringle now goes onto the back of his teammate saying, all right, now it's my turn to have a go. Let's see if I can do the same, with Noah Hendricks keeping that solid pressure, and it's contact with Van Rensburg and with Cameron de Bastos. What on earth happened? It's cut to a camera and see if we can spot out what happened to Cameron Bassos, because that's where it all went wrong. As he turned in, and it was all van Rensburg. Tried to go for the inside late break and return the favor with the send. Unfortunately, didn't quite work out. The two of them making contact, throwing them down the field, and van Rensburg tumbling down the order. Cameron tumbling down the order. That allowed Chris Santos, leader of our Pro-Ams, to move up to 5th. Wesley Lewin is now up into 7th, and he's 2nd in the Pro-Am for the Team CSA. This is all looking up for our Pro-Am drivers to continue on the fight. Mario Augusto Marino trying to move forward in the Ford Mustang. He's lying in 9th, and rounding out our top 10 is Andre de Rees, just keeping all together. The rookie so far having a good time out there, just keeping himself in check. Nothing more you need to do there. Ben England, unfortunately, taking an excursion through bus stop, has lost out to Berners Kumon, trying to make up some time after his little bit of contact. It didn't go down so well. Cameron Bassos and Chris Santos fighting each other out. Cameron runs out wide with Chris Santos keeping a huge amount of pressure on him. John Jens van Rensburg now coming back into the fray as well. He's towing along Wesley Lewin and likes of Marino to move forward. However, Steven Vessels and Noah Hendricks having miles of room to play with and to continue on their drive to see how it goes. Timothy Fullion comes into the pits, getting himself sorted out, but did my eyes to see me and see a car a little bit out of shape heading into the corner, as we do see Chris Santos trying to keep his line, as van Rensburg looking to go for a cutback. He looked on the outside, looked around. Can he get it going? De Santos trying to hold the inside line. Van Rensburg's going to work hard and try and swing back onto the oval as they slide out, trying to see where exactly they can move forward. Some tough racing out there, some proper side-by-side moments, but drivers also not afraid to share pains. Hilton Nixon runs out wide, didn't work out last time. He was able to stabilize the car, gets overtaken by Yuppie Simons, part of the Team CSA team, and have been looking to move forward. Timothy Fullion holds on to 16th position. He'll watching his rearview mirror very, very closely. All the fights happening around him, and where can he make it work? Justin Neal up into 3rd place ahead of Malcolm Pringle, now trying to keep a very close eye. Malcolm closing that gap little by little in through the oval. It's a swing round as they cross the line yet again. Dive on the inside makes it work. Elof with a big lift into turn 1, and did not expect Malcolm Pringle to make it. Gets that undercut to try and go around. Side by side they go again. Elof launching himself back up into 3rd place, waited for his chance, and now unfortunately run out wide, and once again so close between them. Great work from our drivers thus far. Everyone going and giving themselves a bit of room. It was a chaotic start, I will say that, but it looks like everyone giving a bit of room to one another. Hilton Nixon and Yuppie Simons are closed up a little bit further back, and is one of our closest fights out on circuit as they've been trading blows. Malcolm Pringle and Cameron Bassos now trying to see where exactly they can sit. Justin Elof just ahead of Malcolm Pringle, who is trying to see where exactly can he stay in the max. Ultimately, this is a long drive. As we now get down into the dying minutes of this race, the drivers would feel they've done an hour in the car versus just 30 minutes with these conditions. It's not an easy one, and I do think all the drivers are feeling that. So far, Steven Vessels, Noah Hendricks, just need to hold on for the top 3 in Pro. For Pro-Am, it's Chris Santos, Wesley Lewin, and Mario Augusto holding on for the top 3 in Pro-Am. A little bit further apart from one another, but still looking to maximize the points here tonight to go and shoot through the championship to make sure they stay in for a good time, as we keep an eye on Pringle and Elof who are trading blows left, right, and centre. This is where Pringle's a lot more comfortable. Into turn one, late on the brakes, he's able to throw the car in from the inside line. Couldn't quite get that pass sorted out, and now we'll have to just try and get the drive on Elof as they come out into 3, into 4, and tried looking for the inside line, back out of it on that run. Ben England into the pits. That is going to allow Arno Kraus and Mark Pisa to move up through the order. So these two also throwing hammer Arno Kraus and Mark not having an easy time out there, trying to combat the weather, and also starting to see a little bit of a dry line forming as Pringle dives on the inside of Elof. Justin Elof trying to see if he can cut back. No room to get it done. Switches to the outside. Malcolm Pringle holds to the inside. Going to go late on the brakes to ensure that there is no way of slinging past. There's no way of getting a good run out onto the main oval. And Elof is going to have to tuck right back into that slipstream of Malcolm Pringle to see if he can move forward. Now I do want to go down to a driver that was doing rather well, as Ben England unfortunately is having to serve a drive-through penalty now, as we do keep an eye on third place of Pro, and overall trying to move forward. We also have Lucan Haynes, who was one of our drivers right at the top, down in 18th position. He's behind Yuppie Simons, a Pro driver, has got Hilton Nixon on the back of him. Jonathan Simon unfortunately having to serve a drive-through penalty as well for being out of incident points. So it's a very, very tight time out there, dropping wheel on the dirt's full. And a little bit of contact as we do see Haynes going in, crossing the nose of Yuppie. That little bit of contact they're going to be so careful about. Yuppie comes off the throttle and now has Hilton Nixon for a bit of company to try and push himself that little bit more. Mario Augusto Morano into the pits. Andre de Reese into the pits. That is an interesting tell, as a couple of drivers are getting caught out by the looks of fuel stops, not having enough to get to the end, a little too aggressive on the throttle, a little too little in fuel is costing them time, and it's going to be a lift and coast situation for those, as we do see Cameron Bastos trying to go around the outside of Elof, who makes his intent very, very well known from the Pandacity team. Guards that line, and will be having Werner Skuman, and will have Xander in his ears, the team owner of Pandacity, saying, right, you've got to keep that line, you've got to hold on to that fourth, and third place is ahead of you. Get going, get chasing, move up in the order, don't get caught out. Jaden Newell with a drive-through penalty. Ben England, as we do see Andre de Reese leaving pit lane. Arno Kraus leaves pit lane as well, as Lucan gets into the pits as well. So this is an interesting tell, but it is big, big warning, big red flags coming in for these drivers who will be looking at their fuel per lap. They will be looking at what they're doing and saying, right, what do I need to do to get in and out with a splash and dash with less than 4 minutes left in this race for Heat 1 of Round 4, the RaceFace.Pro GT3 Championship. Cameron de Bastos diving into the pits, did not have enough fuel, as Jean-Jans van Rensburg goes into pit lane as well, leaving Malcolm, Justin Nuhr and Steven Vessels to continue on their race, to go that little bit more. Andre de Reese, unfortunately, running into a bit of a problem. It looks like the Porsche getting a little bit of a bite through the puddles. As he enters through the long left-hander, just swings around and beautifully held, but unfortunately not exactly what he wanted to get caught out. Jaden into the pits. Johnson van Rensburg getting ahead of Cameron Bastos. Jaden Newell into the pits. Werner Skuman into the pits. Mario Augusto coming around. He is able to stretch that petrol tank a little bit longer than the rest of the pack. Hilton Nixon keeping the pressure on Arno Kraus. He's got Mark trying to make up a bit of time, but right behind him is the Pandacity machine, a lap down. Tiernas Buerta in the McLaren was caught out in an earlier incident, but is still keeping the fight there. He does not want to be left out and will be keeping the tow. keeping an eye on fellow Pandacity Esports driver, seeing, right, buddy, you got to earn your stripes now. You're new, I'm old, I'm coming at you. Despite where you've been previously, this is a whole new ball game you're going to have to play, as Buerta easily going and outpacing Hilton. Just Neeloff into the toe, and Malcolm Pringle, both drivers giving it that extra bit of push. Malcolm Pringle trying to see where he can go. Stephen Vessels into the pit lane to get himself sorted. And the drivers needing to stretch their legs a little bit more. Pringle into the pits, and it looks like Elof is going to go that one lap extra. He feels he can get it to the end with the Lamborghini. Despite the little bit of damage on the car, he has saved enough fuel to go one lap more. Stephen Vessels, Noah Hendricks, Malcolm Pringle, Chris DeSantos, Wesley Lewin, all going into the pits. This is going to help out Jean Janssen van Rensburg, who's got Cameron de Bastos trying to have a go at him. Jaden that is not Jaden Earl, that is one of our other Mercs, Jan Engelbrecht, who's in the Vodafone colours going around the outside. Van Rensburg hard into the corner, down to second, steadily bringing it in. You can see a little bit of a dry line starting to form, and it's wet in some areas. It's all about getting that drive. Wesley Lewin tumbling down the order. Who is gonna stand there well on the top? Here comes Chris Santos as Mario goes around the outside. DeSantos down into second with a mad dash towards the line, as we do have Justin Elof trying to go that little bit more. Has he got enough in the tank to make it work? The Pandacity Lamborghini has tried his luck, lift, coast, slipstream, and has he got enough to splutter across the line? Justin Elof, the only driver that has not gone into pit lane, will be seeing if he's done enough to see it through to the end. This is going to be a rough one. This is a tough one. Has he got enough in the tank? But the fights are still all over. Stephen Vessels, who led out the race for majority, trying everything he can to bring it back. Unfortunately, a little too far back. And Justin Elof comes across the line. Justin Elof takes the victory. He saved the fuel and took the gamble. Stephen Vessels trying to get away from Willem Buerta, who's had a nightmare race for Heat 1, will take second place. Noah Hendricks comes across in third. Malcolm Pringle beats out his teammate of Jean Janssen van Rensburg as they dive to the line. Cameron de Bastos will hold on to sixth. A little bit further down, fight for the Pro-Am field. Mario and Chris duking it out. Chris to the apron, trying to get the run. Mario getting the victory. 0.03 separating our Pro-Am at the line. Mario beats out Chris DeSantos. Wesley Lewin takes third place. A quick flash of lights as a congratulations and a share of well done. Werner Skuman rounds out our top 10 with Ben England. Andre De Rees comes across the line up into 12th, 13 places that he gained, being our hardest charger this race. James Pepper down, lost 15 positions, but the one that crossed the line, who's definitely going to be feeling it, heading into Heat 2, is Willem Buerta, down 24 positions after the spin and major contact that he had. That meatballed his car and he limped it back to the line. So as our drivers rounding out this course, getting themselves sorted out, it was a chaotic start. I fully admit that. Drivers taking some very interesting risks. However, there was a big thing to talk about: fuel management. And Justin Elof managed to save that little bit more compared to the rest of the field and took that gamble to come across the line 14 seconds ahead, killing off the deficit of Stephen Vessels. He had that one extra lap to play with, and it worked out. Looking at our results, though, after our Heat 1. Let's take a look at our Pro-Am. It's Mario Gusto taking the victory ahead of Chris DeSantos. So close at the end. Absolutely brilliant. The Brazilian driver beating out the South African 0.027 as it came across the line. Wesley Lewin takes third place for Team CSA. Ben England in fourth place. Andre de Ries, Timothy Fullion, Arno Kraus, Mark Pisa takes on that eighth place. Hilton Nixon, Lucan Haynes, unfortunately a little bit further down the order from where he wanted to be. Jan Engelbrecht, Tennis Buerta, Ron Porchita, Jen Newell, Jonathan Simon, James Pepper, unfortunately with an early retirement, went and finished up in 16th with Michael Hudson, unfortunately not able to start the race, will finish last of the pack. Looking at our pros, it is Justin Eloff along with Stephen Vessels going and swapping out the top spots, and Stephen needing to try and get it all together towards the end. Noah Hendricks will hold on to third with Malcolm Pringle, Sean Janssen van Rensburg, Cameron Abastos, Werner Skuman, Joshua Simon, Yuppie Simons, and Willem Buerta rounding out our top 10. 5 laps down on the pack. Here at Daytona, it was cold, it was wet, it landed up damp after having a little bit of rain in practice, but drivers are at the ready as they get themselves warmed up, excited, and ready for the racing here at Daytona International Speedway for Heat 2 of our series here for round 4 of the RaceFace.Pro GT3 Championship Season 2. And folks, we've gone from a 30-minute outright race to the very, very end. However, we're switching things up as this is our feature round. That means it's a 30-minute race at the start, and our Heat 2 is going to be a 45-minute race. Now, when you ask about feature, what on earth does feature mean in this thing, other than a 45-minute race? Well, it also includes a mandatory pit stop that needs to be done, where it's mandatory for the tires to be taken off and new set put on and carry on with the race. This is the only race other than, there's endurance and feature that is the only one for the mandatory pit stop to be done. It's open setup, but that does lock you down on what you need to do and will make things a little bit more interesting. They do have one fast repair, which most drivers got to utilize in Heat 1. They will now get to use it in Heat 2 if necessary to help give them that tactical edge. 16Xers get the sim drive through. Now to explain our incident points for those that are just joining, a massive welcome to RaceFace.Pro. Welcome to our iRacing GT3 Championship Round 4 here at Daytona International Speedway. If you put a wheel off into the dirt, that is 1 incident point. You get a big tank slapper and you're sliding, that's 2 incident points. If you make contact, that's 4 incident points. And you can see how quickly the math adds up to 16. It's meaning you gotta be patient, calm, and work your way through. However, iRacing doesn't assign blame if it's contact. So if you bump into someone else, both you and the person you bumped into get 4x. So it is a little bit of a rough one, but thanks to our post-race stewarding, they will help out in going and handling any incident reports that do come in. Around this 5.6 kilometer circuit is always a tough one here at Daytona Beach, USA. Temperature is a little bit on the chilly side with 18 degrees, and considering we've had our first race and things will be carrying over, the more cars out during the session of our warm-up will help clear some of that water. However, they need to get out there to get it going, and we're heading into Heat 2. Once again, I'd like to say for myself and the RaceFace team, we'd like to wish Gary Fleming a speedy recovery, who is currently out with a bug. So wish him well and look forward to hearing him back in for second year production. It's usually out on a Tuesday. But let's talk about our main sponsor here at RaceFace.Pro, our partner, as I like to say, e.g. Evolve Simulator Rigs. If you're looking for some of the finest hardware in sim racing, just general driving, or in the virtual world, general driving in the virtual world, or flight sims, look no further than e.g. Evolved, with some great prices and with some incredible brands. They will not steer you wrong, and got prices for all budgets. Whether you are starting out or you're a veteran, they have got you covered. e.g. Evolved Simulator Rigs, our main sponsor here at RaceFace.Pro and our partner here at RaceFace. We look forward to a long time with them as we both get to see the growth of South African sim racing. So let's also talk about the next elephant in the room, and that is a reverse grid start for the feature, because, well, I left that one for a little bit of excitement. Mike Knudsen will start in first place with James Pepper in second. Willem Buerta, Jonathan Simon, Yuppie Simons, Jen Yule, Ryan Porkita, Tennis Buerta, Joshua Simon, Johan Engelbrecht, Lucan Ains, Hilton Nixon starts out in 12th. A little bit further down, Mark Pisa, Arno Kraus, Timothy Viljoen, Andre de Ries, Ben England, Werner Skuman, Wesley Lewin, Krista Santos, Mario Augusto, Cameron de Bastos, Jean Jans van Rensburg, and Malcolm Pringle round on 24th. Noah Hendricks in 25th with Stephen Vessels, and Justin Eloff rounds out the pack. A full grid reverse means that for drivers that have had a difficult time, will now get an opportunity to put themselves back towards the sharp end of the field. Willem Buerta, who's had a nightmare in Heat 1, will be looking to go and bring himself back to the sharp end of the field. He's got Joshua Simon next to him. Unfortunately, it does look like a couple of drivers starting from pit lane will not be getting the rolling start, which means tires are going to be ice cold for them. But it's an opportunity for those to move forward. Jonathan Simon and Willem Buerta out on the front row will dictate the pace, with Tennis Buerta and Yuppie Simons right behind them. Will be looking to charge their way forward. However, the pressure comes in for Justin Eloff, Stephen Vessels, Noah Hendricks, Malcolm Pringle, Jean Jans van Rensburg, who are all chasing out for that first place. Now will have to try and carve their way through the field to get themselves back to the top. It's 45 minutes with a mandatory pit stop that can help out the drivers or damage a race as they make their way around. Safety car, Jim into the pits. Beautiful drift, Jim. Absolutely love it.
Green,
Porsche
green,
as we go green here at Daytona. Willem Buerta gets the jump on line. Yuppie Simons down the inside gets a run on Jonathan Simon, who currently holds on for lead of the Pro-Ams as they charge down. Lucan Ains takes a huge dive. He's managed to carve his way up onto Johan Engelbrecht. Tennis Buerta, unfortunately, losing a little bit of drive on the exit, getting scooted out that little bit, and now tumbling down the order. But Noah Hendricks landing up with a bit of a problem early on in this race. Noah Hendricks, who was caught in the middle of a pack, sees a 3-wide situation, gets it wrong, brings it back, but clips the nose against the wall, and will now have to try and pull himself back through the field. The Racing Snails now joining up with one another as they keep the pressure on Yuppie Simons, both running out a little bit wide, trying to get that little bit more drivers. Joshua Simon falling off the circuit, and that allowed the likes of Mark Pisa, Timothy Viljoen to come on by. Jean Jans van Rensburg making quick work, is able to claw his way through the field, and along with Werner Skuman, Joshua Simon and Cameron de Bastos also getting back in the mix. This is a problem up ahead. One Mustang completely sideways, and that looked to be Yuppie Simons, who got it out and wrong. He did get clipped on the way through. He is just holding his brakes at the moment. Werner Skuman got caught into by Joshua, and there's the damage to his car. Hilton Nixon gets it, so his own teammate getting a knock as Werner trying to keep the car all in check, just trying everything to bring it back to norm, and has got some serious suspension damage to the back of his car. Not exactly how he wanted to start his race after a climb up through the order. Lucan and Jonathan now keeping each other in tow, will be going and keeping a sharp eye on the field as Jean-Jans van Rensburg got miles ahead of his own teammate. That had to really slow down the pace a little bit further back. Mark Pisa holding on for third place. Wants to keep it all together. He needs Ferrari 296 to jump on board with him at the moment as he's looking into turn 4. Down the brakes, nice and gently, down to first. See if he can get the run out of the corner and hoping that he can close up the distance to Jean-Jans van Rensburg, who currently holds second place of the pros. The two teammates, Lucan and Jonathan, throwing down on one another. The Racing Snails not going and holding back, and it's definitely an, you know, everyone says papaya rules. I think I'm going to come up with one just for the Racing Snails and also for the Snails Pace Racing team. It's escargot rules. It's escargot rules. Who is going to be the one to stand on top? You can't call it papaya racing. This is escargot. Lucan and Jonathan fighting it out, the two of them going at it absolutely tooth and nail at one another, trying to move forward. And while they're going and having a brawl, this allows Jans van Rensburg to come close. Mark Pisa, Timothy Viljoen, who has now got Cameron Bastos, look down the inside. Cameron gets the jump and he clears past Timothy Viljoen, who holds fourth in his class. Cameron has to try and move forward, but take a look at Chris DeSantos moving his way up. Werner Schumann landing up, coming back, trying to limp it to pit lane. So close, and you could see the amount of damage to the car. Unfortunately, it just snapped down on him. Bigger impact against the wall, but he was limping it, and had to get it towed at the end of it. It's unfortunate to go and see a car that broken, but after just having too much damage to the car after Yippee Simons got it out of shape, Werner clips onto the wall, plus having impact against his own teammate. Hilton Nixon didn't quite help out the affair. Cameron Bastos clears past Mike Nieser at the moment, who is not holding back, knowing the pressure. Timothy Viljoen right behind him as the two trying to have a move through the order, trying to shuffle their way around. And we have got Noah Hendricks, and this is a big problem further back. Noah Hendricks lost the car early on at the start. Looks like it snapped out again on the grass, and oh, just a little bit of a catch on the Porsche, trying to slow the car down, and that's Tiernas Puerta that gets caught up in the mix. So Noah Hendricks trying to keep the car in check, unfortunately landed up going and taking a severe amount of off track. That landed up with a few cars, bit bent and broken. Tiernas Puerta getting most impact to his car as he was trying to take some evasive maneuvers. Now we'll be trying to figure out how to put that car back together after a bit of a knock. Yuppie still out and going. Noah Hendricks up against Jan Engelbrecht, Rian Pojita along with Ben England, Andre Maurice, who was Porsche that got clipped by Tiernas Puerta, now has to feel out what his car is doing, whether it's going to feel okay to push more. You can see a little bit of damage on the car, on that nose slightly lifted, and we'll feel it on the rear as well. There's a bit of off track getting them caught out, and drivers will have to see where exactly they can come into play. Joshua Syme trying to keep it alive as he's got pressure from Chris DeSantos on the back of him, trying to see where he can get on by. This is a big run for Chris DeSantos at the moment as Mark Pisa not going and slowing down, amping up the pressure for that third place, wanting to try and move forward as drivers still out there having a difficult race, trying to see what exactly they can do to move forward up through the order. It's never an easy feat, it's never an easy time, but there is still lots of opportunity to move forward. Oh, Jonathan Sloman after doing so well off circuit, Chris DeSantos as well, both outbraking themselves, landing up into the grass. No harm, no foul to the cars, but position loss of note as Chris caught out. He's boxed in as Timothy Fullion tried to go around the outside. Jonathan had to slip into the run and sees Chris all over the back of him. To Santos from Logistical Nightmare Racing, trying to keep it alive, but take a look at that dry line, and I do mention it, really keep an eye on the dry line, because this is going to affect how our pit stops are going to look like in the run as DeSantos clears on by Jonathan, moving DeSantos back up into third place. Jonathan slipping down the order and having to fight his way through. Justin Eloff, who started right at the back. Remember, it was a full grid reversal, and Eloff now hunting his way through up 16 positions from where he starts. Got Timothy Fullion and Malcolm Pringle ahead of him to try and clear on by. Malcolm Pringle fighting in the same class will not make it easy for him. Eloff having to just sit behind, slips into the toe a little bit of Jonathan Simon, who goes and waits on the brake, looks down the inside. He's keeping it all together. The drivers know which class they are fighting, where they want to take the fight. You are allowed to fight overall positioning. However, you can't go and expect a Pro-Am to jump out of the way for you. Van Rensburg all over the back and nearly into the back on Lucan, who's trying to keep it all together at the moment. Not an easy time out there, as you can see Van Rensburg itching to get that BMW pass. Looking inside, looking outside, saying, come on, I got to close up to Willem Berta, who has seemed to have got the Getty up and go. More than happy to keep the run. Mark Pisa and Pringle fight it out side by side as they start making their way onto the oval, and it's Pringle who gets pushed out wide. Pisa gets a better drive, and Eloff gets clear past Malcolm Pringle on the exit. Now it's all about top end. He's stuck up high, going and trying to keep the tyres alive. Pringle, on the other hand, on the dry line, a lot quicker down there. We'll be seeing how he can defend as Mark goes and slows down. Eloff gets past as he follows Pringle through. Now it's into the bus stop. Johan Engelbrecht, unfortunately, a drive-through coming in for him, and will be needing to get that car sorted out. Werner Skuma, Michael Hudson, James Pepper, Mario Gosto, Morano, and Jaden Hill, unfortunately, out of this race, releasing everyone else to move forward. But we're already starting to see some interesting pit stops. 9 minutes, going nearly 10 minutes into the race. Lieutenant's pulling into the pits very early. Try and get his man before he stops out of the way and focus his eyes forward. After seeing what can be done in the 30 minute from Eloff, he does not want to be caught out and lose time. Chris Santos allows Malcolm Pringle to come on through without too much of a fight, but now needs to keep an eye on Eloff, who will be wanting to clear on pass as quick as he can. Timothy Fullion all over the back of Stephen Vessels, who's also been slowly but surely getting his way back up through the order. Fullion, who led majority of Heat 1, does not want to land up in the back and get caught out yet again. He is going to be pushing out a little bit harder and knowing what he needs to do to stay up at the top. The mandatory pit stop with mandatory tire change is going to force drivers to get back out onto the circuit with ice-cold tires, but a slightly drier circuit, meaning temperatures is going to be a little bit easier to get sorted and carry on the race. Slight adjustments might be made for those that are looking to get themselves out on slicks, and those on wets are now trying to find any patch of wet circuit. As we bring up our tire chart, you can see Berta on wet, Van Rensburg on dry, Joshua Simon dry, Cameron de Bastos on wet, Pringle on dry, Ben England on dry, Hilton Nixon on dry, as it's a varied all over the field. Drivers trying to figure out what is the right tire to take at this stage of the game. It is a roll of the dice, see how you feel, but for those that are out and pushing, it does look like the wet tires starting to eat it absolutely now. will be feeling rather mushy, rather gummy through the corners. A little bit of a slide here and there. And they've also got a very fine line to go and play on as they've got to hunt down the puddles. But you can see on the dry tyres, Joshua not hanging back. And so is Malcolm Pringle, giving it that big push as they now got the 53s as the fastest lap time, folks. Breaking it down was Malcolm Pringle with a 49.9, and that's expected to get faster and faster and faster as the track dries up and Daytona starts to show why it's about the top end, why you go and look away from having too much drag on the car. You try and flatten the car out as much as possible, make it as aerodynamic as possible, rely on mechanical grip, and ensure that you can maximize every bit of rev and to get that top end speed through the circuit. Huerta and DeSantos both currently lead out their field for now in their respective classes. However, are going to be considering their pit stops rather soon, as both drivers are still out on wet weather tyres. They're both trying to feel where exactly that threshold is going to be. Timothy Yun trying to close up to Jonathan Simon ahead, trying to see where exactly he can make up that time. And as we jump on board with the BMW, climbing down the gears into third, a little lift again, feed the throttle through gently through the bus stop, but not wanting to get that car over rotated and going and landing up with the problem. Huerta into the pits, 13 minutes into this race, gets his stop done and dusted, does not want to land up going and driving too far on the wet tyres and having a go, but also starting to see how the lap times are coming down. We have got yellow flags for Hilton Nixon, who's been having a bit of a appalling race on his return back to South African sim racing. Over the curb to the bus stop, too much over the curb, and yep, that tyre barrier doesn't move. Tried, but Hilton head-on approach didn't quite work out in that run. Little luck next time to see if the rubber isn't concreted to the ground here in iRacing. Wesley Lewin and Rian Pochita going and closing up on one another. Wesley Lewin around the outside as Rian dives into pit lane to get himself sorted out. That allows Wesley to carry on the momentum and move up into 16th position. Drivers have been sitting, going through, figuring out, and now it's about who has that little bit more in the tank to move forward. Van Rensburg currently leads out the field on wet weather tyres, and you can see in the dry line starting to battle more and more at this stage of the game. He is not going to be happy with that, as Bing England caught onto Jonathan, who has a little bit of a blip. He's pulling a Houdini on the rest of the world here, but Ben England, the Stell's Pace Racing team, looking to make escargot of Jonathan Simon, the Racing Snails. Don't get the two teams confused, but don't call them slow as snails, because these two drivers absolutely gave it they all every single time last season and continued this season to push themselves more and more. Malcolm Pringle down to the 48.6, a brilliant time out on circuit. I'm going to be more than happy with that one. Sons of the Team CSA trying to see if he can claw his way through. Caught up against long-term friend and rival Willem Huerta, who is getting it wrong out of bus stop and into the wall. Willem Huerta gets it all out of shape and unfortunately puts it into the wall, going and losing out some time there over the curb, and that was all she wrote for him. And unfortunately landed up with a ding against the side. Still up and going, but not quite what he wanted to have for his race, and opting to get into pit lane. It just hasn't got the rotation. Sliding it through, trying to slow the car down. It's already not happy. And also into pit lane, that is wet out there still. So drivers just not going and having a thrilling time around a very tricky circuit right now, but utilizing every skill they have in their toolbox to move forward. Mark Bisa landing up with a bit of a problem. This is exiting turn 3, heading into 4. 77 waits on the anchors, brings it in gently on the throttle. Nope, not quite working out for him. First gear just kicking out as he does see one of our BMWs parked off and also running into the same type of issue and going and having the rear turning out on him. Cameron de Bastos getting the black flag for 16 incident points reach. He's got damage on his nose of the car. That's going to allow Stephen Vessels to have an easier time. Joshua Syme getting a black flag as well for to serve drive-through. That is not going to be a happy camper for him. And also, yellow flag coming into play. So put a wheel off onto the dirt. Once again, a little touch onto the dirt as he was coming out of 4. That spun the car around too close to the right-hand side. And that absolutely got the dirt all over the tires, killed off that pace, and unfortunately will drop him like a stone. As not only as he's got his mandatory pit stop, he has to still try and get that drive-through sorted out, allowing Ben England to move up. Another driver that's going to be more than happy about that is Arno Kraus and Luke Ains, who are now back up to the top. They are pushing themselves that little bit harder and seeing where exactly they can get the move up through the order. Stephen Vessels running into a problem, and this is behind Cameron de Bastos. So Cameron de Bastos into bus stop, Vessels following through. Oh, too much over the curb and bang into the wall. Yet again, bus stop taking another victim here at Daytona and putting an unfortunate time. Wesley Lewin getting a drive-through penalty as well. It is absolutely falling apart here, folks. Drivers starting to feel the incident points racking up more and more, and it's gone from a race to survival as Joshua Syme now trying to keep it all together. Here is Elof trying to get past the 33 of Timothy Fulyun, who landed up with a few turnarounds, but is still out there. Elof has moved himself up to 4th place with Yuppie Simons up the road. It is a great time to be alive. It's a great time to go and push. It's a great time to see our drivers giving it that little bit more out on circuit. But the question that comes in, remember the mandatory pit stop. And let's quickly take a look at that because our top 3 are yet to pit. John Jans van Rensburg, Malcolm Pringle, and Ben England are yet to get their stops done. Arno Kraus is yet to get his stop done, along with Yuppie Simons. But Luke Ains, on the other hand, has completed his pit stop and now is just doing everything he can to cycle his way through as he does see a car into the wall, and that's one of our CSA drivers in the BMW. That's Stephen Vessels, who gets it out of shape on exit, stood on the throttle. The car did not cope with the lack of grip and unfortunately put him into the wall, landing up with quite a bit of work to do to bring himself back up through the field. Drivers entering pit lane, Cameron de Bastos to serve his drive-through and will then afterwards have to serve his mandatory pit stop as we 20 minutes into this race with 25 minutes left in it. And you can see how the track's gotten dry. Jans van Rensburg out doing 47s at the moment. He took the gamble to go out and push out a little bit harder. The question is, tyre compound-wise, he's out on the dries. So those that battled in the beginning are now starting to see the fruits of their labor come back out as the track is drying up and making a huge difference out there. They do have a very fine line to play with some corners. Still very damp and puddles located on the apexes, but the drivers have got a little bit more to play with. Arno Kraus and Yuppie Simons pushing out a little bit more, trying to see if they get going. Zoot going and saying, if it ain't yellow, you're slow. Well, I think it's a bit of both there, that you've got to be a little bit yellow, you've got to be a little bit slow. It's all about taking your time and seeing where exactly you can move forward. But I like the enthusiasm. I love to see the inter-team rivalries that build up across the world of RaceFace. Doesn't matter where you are. Doesn't matter what sim you're in. To have these inter-team rivalries does make life rather interesting as Elof closes up on Yuppie. Someone's trying to close up that gap. Remember, Yuppie has yet to do his pit stop, but Elof holds the fastest lap time of the race, 1:47.1, as he takes on the inside. As Mark Pisa coming out of pit lane, keeping it all together. Mark just trying to circulate at this stage of the game. Hasn't been an easy race for him. He's down in 15th position, as Yuppie will have to keep a very close eye on his rearview mirror, seeing a screaming Lambo pulling up at a rate of knots and looking for every opportunity to come on by. The team CSA driver is not going to be caught lying down. He has fought it out once, twice, 3 times before, and now Yuppie into the toe will have the run around the oval, and with the dry line forming, will have a great run in terms of pace, but does go up high. That doesn't quite work for him. Yuppie goes up high, which works better for him. A little bit of a lean against one another. Ooh, not too much of a happy camper there. And Yuppie taking a fair amount of damage on that one. Not 100% sure what happened, and maybe with that being said, let's see if we can try and go and get a better view of the situation. And it looked like the gap closing up, and that was that contact between the two. Yuppie getting smoothed into the wall a little bit by Justin Elof, who may have got a little bit frustrated, not 100% sure there. We'll leave it to the stewards, but Yuppie unfortunately also tiring out the car after getting damaged. He hooks the curb, brings it through, and yeah, brings that car to the stop. Not too happy on that one, and damage a little bit too severe. Cameron de Bastos also running into a problem. Bus stop taking another victim, as we seen. Yep, over the curves, bottom the car out, bang into the wall. Not much you can do, dry or wait. Bus stop will have its blood, and it doesn't mean it's going to be friendly to you. Bus stop takes no prisoners, and so far it's seen that. And Jean Jans van Rensburg, who got it out of shape into pit lane, gets a drive through, no, gets a black flag for unsafe pit entry from leading out the race. Hooked it into the pit lane, got a slide, and unfortunately an unsafe pit entry may have just cost him the win of this race. Ben England will be looking to get into the pits very, very soon, along with Malcolm Pringle. But that little bit of a move into the pits, that is so easy to do. You're coming off at well over 300 kilometers an hour, down to the apron, which is still greasy with some wet puddles, and trying to slow the car down at a rate of knots down to 80 kilometers an hour is not an easy thing to do. And we see even in the dry, drivers get it horribly wrong and land up going and getting themselves a penalty. Unfortunately, that landed up with Van Rensburg out of shape, spun round, and now needing to serve his penalty inside his pit box. Hippie Simon's getting a called out as well. Now, sorry, this is Jonathan Simon. Jonathan trying to navigate his way through. Oh, too early on the throttle on the apex. Still a bit wet there, and that spun him out, and it just got worse. It just got worse. Tailing around, just checking the shell, making sure it's all okay out there. But his teammate, the rookie, Andre de Ries, trying to keep it going. Does have one of our Ford Mustangs look up the inside. Oh, a little bit clipped on the rear. Was able just to save it a little bit, but unfortunately couldn't quite work out. And that was Philip Werter trying to slow the car down. And unfortunately didn't get it enough. Running into the back of de Ries, who was looking into the ball just a tad. Malcolm Pringle trying to survive out on the circuit, moving a little bit to see what he can do to keep it all together. He's got Lucan trying to catch up and see if he can stay in the fray, but we do see one of the racing snails keeping within the mix as well, hoping to move forward. Arno Kraus leaves pit lane. Hilton Nixon is able to gain a position. Now Hilton is trying to keep it all together, sitting in the top 10 with his McLaren. Ben England into the pits, and that means Malcolm Pringle will inherit the lead. Lucan Haynes will take on second place. Justin Eloff will come across the line to take third as they continue their race down to the wire. And looking at the grid, everyone has done their pit stops. Everyone is still stretching their legs, and everyone has still got the opportunity to stand their way to the top. And it's going to be a tough run. This is going to be a tough run for everyone. And Eloff getting a bit of a spin round coming out of turn 4. Too early on the throttle, wet circuit not working out in his favor. To Santos going and sitting in fourth place, second in class. Will get ahead of Ben England, and the question is, will Andre de Vries be able to do so as he navigates his way around the circuit? Ben England coming out of pit lane with cold tyres will now have to defend against de Vries, who has got cold tyres and a little bit of, well, he's got warmer tyres but a little bit of damage. Noah Hendricks keeping the pressure on him. We'll be seeing ultimately where they can move up through the order and where the fight can stay in. Mark Pisa, unfortunately, visiting the dirt, and that Ferrari looking like its road-going counterpart as he's trying to limp it back to pit lane. Jonathan Simon landing up with a bit of a problem. This is heading into bus stop. Did bus stop claim its blood again over the curbing? Jonathan, yep, once again, bailed over the curbing, spun round and bang into the wall, needing a bit of repair to the front of his car. Mark trying to bring that car back in towards the pit, but now we're in for a fight for the lead. It is Haynes versus Pringle. Pro against Pro-Am at this stage of the game, and the Pro tailing the Pro-Am, trying to see where exactly can he get that little bit more movement, where can he get that pass, and how is he going to get it done? Malcolm Pringle all over the back, and Luke Danes trying to see where exactly is the opportunity to get the BMW down the inside for Lucan. This is an opportunity to win big, show big, but now needing to keep it all together and feel the pressure behind him. Does he continue with the fight against the Pro? And it's gonna be a huge run through the race. Who is gonna have that little bit more as we now getting towards the closing runs? There's no more pit stops for any of these drivers. Any pit stops now will be those that unfortunately landed up going and facing incident point limit or running into problems as Hilton Nixon gets overtaken by Andre de Vries in 7th position with Noah Hendricks tailing him. The Asymmetric Racing team holding on to that 8th position. De Vries not having an easy time out there, slides his way through. Noah Hendricks trying to bring it back, doing everything he can late on the anchors, swings it through. De Vries just hoping to hold the line at the moment. He's running 4th in class, trying to catch up to Ben England a little further up the road, roughly about 6 seconds up, and the snail's pace racing once again showing that it's not a snail's pace. It is all about consistency. It's all about just moving forward. It's all about keeping your eye on the prize, planning and consistency paying off here at Daytona in a difficult weather situation. Pringle all over the back of Lucan, who is battling to hold the line, and it's going to be a tough time for Pringle to get an easy pass here, trying to look for the inside, trying to sniff a inside line at the moment, and not having an easy run nonetheless. Malcolm Pringle holds on for second place. Lucan Haynes will be wishing to have his teammate joining him as Pringle dives down the inside. Lucan unfortunately outbraking himself, caught mirror watching, and that cost him the overall, but still holds on first in his class. But now will look 6 seconds back to see Justin Eloff trying to close up the distance. Nice little fight still sticking on. Noah Hendricks and Andre de Vries continue their brawl as they exit out of 1 into 2 into 3, snaking their way around. Tennis Buerta, unfortunately, black flag for him for drive-through penalty, and it's gonna be Jonathan Simon as well getting the black flag, and that is impacting their race, taking them out of the top 10 for now. Unless something happens, those two will have to settle to be out of the top 10 and will settle for not being able to maximize points in their class. However, Greece holds back Noah Hendricks. We've seen this fight before. Pro-Am versus Pro. Who can go the extra mile between the two drivers, between the two classes, and whether they're going to keep themselves going that extra mile. Marquisa into the pit. Cameron Bastos, as we saw, had that earlier damage in the pit. Doesn't look like they're getting the cars out. Gippy Simons, unfortunately, out of the race, along with Joshua Syme, who is also out of the race. So we've seen quite a few retirements here at Daytona. The conditions haven't been helpful, and it's not entirely the most pleasant. If you're a rain driver, this is a little bit of a nightmare because it's in between. For a dry driver, this is a nightmare because there is no grip. And Luke Haynes into the pits, getting some repair work to his car, loses out to Dos Santos. Did he decide he was losing too much top end on the car and has now sacrificed that top spot to carry on till the end? Andre de Vries getting a penalty for unsafe pit entry and damage to his car. Will not be having an easy time. The Racing Snails going, the Snails Pace Racing. No, Racing Snails getting themselves in a little bit of a pickle, and unfortunately needing a bit of work, meaning Dos Santos up into first in the class for the logistical Nightmare Racing team, and seeing how far he can move up through the order. He's got Ben England and Luke Haynes, who is now in third, but has got a bit of repair work done to his car. He's chasing down Ben England, and Noah Hendricks closing on to his tail, trying to see where exactly can he move forward. So the two of them are going to have a blow-to-blow race and see where exactly they end up on the top. Tough racing out there, and always a tough time for our drivers to maximize their pace. Justin Eloff having no problem with that. We spoke about 53s in qualifying being the fastest. Well, Eloff putting in a 45.3, chasing down Malcolm Pringle. Slowly but surely bringing that gap down. 5.3 seconds between them. Chris Dos Santos with a 47. And that tells you how much the track has dried up between the start of this entire session and now. And everyone trying to dial it in that little bit more, push. Let's go further down the field. It's another good battle. And going and rampaging on. Wesley Lewin and Tienes Buerta fighting it out. Tienes Buerta on the Panacity team, smiling as can be. Gotta say, love the profile picture of Tienes. You know, I'm standing on my booster seat to take a look, but would be nice if we can get a nice smiling picture. Looks like you've got your mugshot ready to go. And Wesley Lewin is going to be going and putting you in handcuffs rather soon at the moment, as he's gaining with his BMW. Trying to see if he can close up that gap at a rate or not. Looks like on the inside, and it's going to be Buerta stuck to the outside. Couldn't quite go for the defense. Engelbrecht, unfortunately, getting a penalty. So is Jonathan Simon as well. And we got yellow flags for Jonathan Simon. I think this was a little bit earlier for what happened to him. So having all fun in the Ferrari. Bubba Hilton Nixon. Oh, once again, turn 4. Achilles heel. Going and clipping the curb, getting on the power, and that absolutely bit him. Again, Engelbrecht, unfortunately, will tumble down the order with ease drive through, and that will force him down the order as here comes Wesley along with Tiana Buerta clearing on by. We have got further reports. Willem Buerta having a nightmare of a race. Has got Andre de Ries on the back of him. Buerta keeps it all together. And, oh, bus stop, bus stop, bus stop. Rinse, repeat for majority of the field. And Buerta, second time out, hooks the curb in towards the wall, taking that little bit of damage. And unfortunately, going and not helping him out. As we re-look at it, he just bounced over the curb, slid, and it's just rinse and repeat of what he had. It absolutely just plagued his race this evening, but is still out there, still going, and still trying to figure out just what he can do. He's dived into pit lane now to get the repair work done and to get back out on circuit. A top 10 is not down on him for this one. Then it's going to be a little bit long since he used his fast repair early on in this race. He's lying in 8th and will have to just sit and wait that little bit more as we go to the fight for second in class. Ben England, Luke Haynes having a go, and it's Luke Haynes who runs out wide, gets a little bit unsteady on the exit, allowing Ben England to open up the distance yet again. The Porsche just trying its hardest. Unfortunately, the BMW having the torque, able to get on the inside and push out a little bit harder. Just Nieloff down to a 45.1. He's managing to open up the gap and give it that little bit more to see it through. He's pushing to try and close up. Now down to a 3-second gap from 5 seconds. And with the dying minutes of this race, round 4, heat 2 of the RaceFace.Pro iRacing GT3 Championship, right here at Daytona International Speedway, where it hasn't been the easiest of races for any of our drivers. However, the drivers are continuing to just see what they can do to see it through to the end. No matter what goes on, it is game, set, match for many of these drivers to give that extra little bit of push, that extra little bit of a go, and to see where exactly it comes out. The 5 second in the Pro-Am, however, is starting to heat up as we do see Ben England got the inside line yet again, more comfortable out there, forcing Haynes into the wet. Not gonna be happy in terms of drive, but he is absolutely fighting tooth and nail at the moment. Noah Hendricks holds on to third for the Pro Division. He watches these two duke it out. He's got no problem. Oh, and that's a problem for Ben England. Outbraked himself into the dirt. Lucan says thank you very much. Noah Hendricks says thank you very much. Ben England kicking himself right now as they gotta try and make up that little bit of time to see where they can push a little bit more. Turnus Buerta trying to close up to the gap to Wesley Lewin. Justin Eloff down to a 44.8 and is right in the pound seat to move forward. If he carries on going, Malcolm Pringle's in for a bit of trouble here. Last lap time for Pringle was a 1:46.2. Eloff was a 44.8. And that moment for Eloff to get in towards the top spot after starting at the back of the field on the restart due to the entire grid being flipped around. It was his final run to see if it works out. And oh, it's a problem for Malcolm Pringle. Pringle went off. Pringle felt the pressure. Quickly take a look at what happened. Went out wide, clipped the water on the outside, spun the car around, little knock into the wall, and that is all she wrote for Pringle's lead of the race as Eloff managed to close down the distance, get his way past. Now it is all to push for. Noah Hendricks getting a penalty, will need to go through pit lane. Is this going to affect him as Willem Buerta holds on to 9th position and is looking out to get ahead of Noah Hendricks. Noah Hendricks going from 3rd down to 4th. Willem Buerta might be able to put him down to 5th as our top 3 of the Pro-Ams now lie all within the top 5. Eloff and Pringle hold 1st and 2nd overall. It is a mad dash down to the wire for every single one of these drivers. It is all about pushing that little bit more Who will be able to keep these cars going that little bit longer in this race? Lucan having a stellar time out there. De Vries now starting to close up the distance. Unsteady under braking into the bus stop. Buerta gives him room. De Vries, who's got no wing on that car, is hurting in terms of top end pace. Buerta unfortunately gets it wrong. He minded out of the way for a charging De Vries, expecting possibly a T-bone. Went out wide, clipped the water, and that's it. Spun round. That allowed Noah Hendricks to get away a little bit more. De Vries, who has got next to no aero left on the car, relying on pure mechanical grip to keep him alive at this stage of the game. Holds on to 9th. Noah Hendricks holds on to 8th. Arno Kraus up the road holds on to 7th and 4th in class. Cameron de Bastos with yet another penalty coming into play and putting him back into the pits. Jean-Jans van Rensburg holds on to 3rd place in class, 6th overall, and is still giving it that extra little bit of a leg up on the competition, trying to see where he can get that run on Ben England ahead. Seeing the BMW within arm's reach, he wants to try and get himself into the top 5. For Ben England, it's hold on for dear life. It's push that little bit harder. See if you can close up to Lucan Haynes. The Racing Snails not backing out of the fight, with Alan Orr leading out the Pro-Am. Justin Eloff of Pandacity holds the lead above Malcolm Pringle, who's trying to keep it going for the Slowpoke Racing, is caught right onto the back of one of our Mustangs, and that's possibly Willem Buerta. We'll take a look. Yes, it is. It's Willem Buerta. Sorry, it's Arno Kraus that is in 7th place. He snuck his way up into 4th, allowing our 2nd place car to go, and immediately goes back on the guard, seeing that he has got the BMW of Timothy Fullion, now keeping him for company a little bit further back, and will be charging their way down. With a minute to go in this race, it's that last leg down to the line. It's that last little push to see who's going to move forward, and we have got reports Cameron de Bastos running into a problem. Oh, spun out, heading onto the oval, and there's contact. That was Jonathan Simon who had a bit of contact and looked like it was going into pit lane. Jonathan Simon, major damage to his car, tried to go for the pit lane and just bounced off the wall, and that was after his major contact with Cameron de Bastos. So you can see that Ferrari absolutely second hand, and that pony going to the Blue Factory. That is for certain a call off to Italy for a brand new chassis and some spares, as Hilton Nixon legs it down the inside of Willem Buerta, trying to move his way up into the top 10. Buerta going and giving him a little bit of a run. Justin Eloff into the pits. Eloff into the pits. He underfueled. Eloff underfueled. Pringle into the lead with a minute out of the race. Eloff, was it? No, it was a splash and dash. Malcolm Pringle got it right. Eloff went 1 lap too short in his fuel from in the lead down to 2nd. Pringle to the lead. Chris DeSantos trying to make his way through. Will dive into the pits. He did not expect to go that extra lap. Drivers have not expected to go the extra run, and that has now cost the race. Lucan Haynes has an opportunity, will be looking to go into the lead. He has taken it. Eloff with a penalty. Eloff with a penalty. Can Jean-Jans van Rensburg close up the gap? Lucan Haynes up into the lead. Ben England up to 2nd place. Van Rensburg will be looking to close up the distance as fast as possible to Eloff to see if it's going to help him out. But Arno Kraus has an opportunity here to get ahead of Chris DeSantos. Arno Kraus looking for his first podium in iRacing has an opportunity. He's got to get the hammer down. It's one more lap as he enters the bus stop. There is Dos Santos coming out of the pits. They misjudged their fuel. They worked it down to the wire. Unfortunately, they went one lap more. But one person who thought he was out of that top spot, that's going to be smiling ear to ear, taking the checker flag for the pros. Malcolm Pringle takes the victory here at Daytona for the second heat. The 45 minutes here for round 4. Autocross will finish up in 4th place behind Chris Dos Santos in 3rd. Noah Hendricks takes 3rd place in the Pro Division, which means Justin Eloff holds on to 2nd place despite the penalty. Luke Danes will be taking the victory for the Racing Snails and smiling ear to ear in the Porsche. He has done it to get ahead of Ben England, who did not count on the pit stop. Luke Danes across the line, down the gears. More than happy on that one. Ben England will come across in 2nd place with the BMW. Chris Dos Santos will take 3rd in the Pro-Am. There is Jean-Jans van Rensburg coming across the line, 4th overall, 3rd in class, joining on the podium for the 2nd heat with his teammate. Ben England will be happy on his run, not too happy on the pit stop. Dos Santos, who had a great run, also landed up down in towards the pits, but still finishes on the podium ahead of Arno Kraus. And man, oh man, folks, a race that has been full of drama, and has come down to math coming into play. That's why, kids, stay in school, study hard, because this is what happens when you miscalculate the little margins in your fuel and can compromise your win full stop. Willemboort, unfortunately, with a bit of damage on his car, will come across the line. He'll take 11th. Well done on seeing it through to the end, despite having suspension that should be the other way. Not pulling to the right, but rather pulling to the left. So he's got it for some ovals. Not entirely what he wanted it to be, and not quite a race that he wanted to have. Jan Engelbrecht comes across the line with his Mercedes in 15th position, 10th in class, and got to see it all through to the end. Wow, oh wow. Folks, what a race. What a race. And there is going to be some unhappy drivers. I'm not going to shy away from that fact, but there is going to be a lot of smiles as well after an incredible round 4, full of interesting times out there and drivers having a great run. We're going to have a chat to those drivers as well coming up, but let's take a look at some of our results. It's Luke Danes taking the victory here in E2, Ben England in 2nd place, Chris Santos taking 3rd for our Pro-Am. Arno Kraus, Andre de Vries, Hilton Nixon, Timothy Viljoen, Wesley Leuren, Tiernas Buerta, Jan Engelbrecht, Jonathan Simon, Mark Pisa, Rian Porkita, Michael Hudson, James Pepper, Daniel, and Mario Augusto, finishing 17 to 25 laps down due to non-starters. Rian Porkita, unfortunately, retiring a little bit earlier in the race, and 17 laps down on the field. Moving on to our pros, and this is going to be a happy time. Malcolm Pringle finishing up in 1st place ahead of Justin Eloff. Jean-Jans van Rensburg taking that 3rd place. Noah Hendricks, Willem Buerta, Cameron de Bastos, Yuppie Simons, Joshua Symes, Stephen Vessels, and Werner Skuman rounding out the pack. It was exciting. It was crazy, but exciting. And drivers got to push themselves that little bit harder throughout the race. And we do have some interviews coming up, and I'm going to bring them both in at the same time because it is the teammates that had that amazing run in Heat 2 and also had a great run in Heat 1. It was a stellar run. And let's bring in Jean-Jans van Rensburg and Malcolm Pringle to come and have a chat to us. Firstly, I've got to congratulate both of you on a great race. Not an easy one when it came to fuel and conditions. However, some stellar run nonetheless. And I'm going to start things off with Jean-Jans van Rensburg, who got third in Heat 2. Mr. van Rensburg, welcome to the commentary box. What a race for you. Up and down in Heat 1 and in Heat 2 as we look on screen with some of the fun you had with Noah Hendricks heading into turn 1 in these treacherous conditions. How was the race here at Daytona for you?
Dude, firstly, Malcolm had to send me the coordinates. I don't know where this place was. I haven't been on the podium since IndyCar. It's been a while. The race was good. We knew we stuffed up on the strategy in race 1. So race 2, we had to take a bit of a risk, which worked out. Obviously, the opening laps were chaotic. And I had fun until I had a oopsie going into the pits. And that cost me 70 seconds.
We caught that on stream, the Tokyo Drift moment getting into pit lane. And it actually brings up a very good question of, take us through how it is. You're coming off the oval at 300 k's now. You got to slow it down to 80. Just that pit entry itself in NASCAR is already difficult. Now in GT3 racing, plus having the wet conditions, what goes through the driver's mind is saying, okay, well, I got to go to an apron that's rather wet. And another factor, your tire choice to carry you through the second heat where it was drying up and there was still major wet patches around the track.
So honestly speaking, let's just go to the tire choice first. It was tricky starting on the dries, but we knew the window of overlap was almost there. So to put 3 laps into the race wouldn't have been worthwhile. So we had to start on the dries. And I think honestly with the chaotic mess, being an understatement that we had in the opening laps, it kind of made it easier that we didn't see a big pace difference between the 2 tires. Now, obviously it's great when you have a dry track, but something Malcolm and I did discuss beforehand, but I did not pay enough attention to, is your pit lane being wet, and especially the entry and exit. So I never thought that the wet stream would throw me off as much as it did. So what goes through your mind is, okay, I'm slowing down. I'm not slowing down enough. I see water. Okay, I'm about to flood the car. There's a wall. There's cars coming. There's grass. Oh, we slowed down. Oh no, I've got to stop go. And that pretty much sums up what's going through your mind all within about 500th of a second.
Well, as a driver coming from loose surface racing, getting hooked sideways, to say, oh boy, it really puts a lot of confidence in us that are used to circuits, and that's a little bit worrying, to say the least. But a 5th place in Heat 1, a 3rd place in Heat 2, that moves you 7th provisionally. What's the game plan for the rest of the championship with 2 rounds to go?
Well, honestly, we want to just get maximum points. Unfortunately, time has been a problem, and I haven't been able to put in a lot of practice. So the plan is to put in a bit more effort in the rounds to come and just see where we can take points away, as Malcolm is obviously in a better position. Now, sure, we will race each other, but at the end of the day, we'll prioritize him and we'll have fun together. We'll just see what we can do with the other oaks.
Well, we got to see a little bit of that fighting a bit earlier. And that brings me to Malcolm Pringle. 4th in Heat 1, a victory in Heat 2. Did you expect to get the victory in Heat 2? It looked like the gap was just closing. A critical mistake in the last 5 minutes from your side. And then all of a sudden, you're back on the top step. I mean, that must have been a roller coaster of emotions for you.
Yeah, I tell you what, I was not expecting that. The beginning of the race was just absolute chaos. Everyone was just spinning. There was obviously a bit of a range of tire choices from wet and dry, and yeah, obviously you guys weren't. But yeah, the plan was to stick on the dry line in the beginning and just hang back, and unfortunately there was just too much to get through, which cost me a lot. But yeah, even with a little bit of damage that I was carrying, I managed to claw back some time. And then towards the end with Justin, I thought, you know what, I've made a mistake. I'm now actually just got to settle for second. And I could not believe it when I saw him, when the time between us was just getting shorter and shorter. And I thought, fuel. This is like gifted back to me. I couldn't believe it.
That being said, an incredible race, and we got to see you and your teammate having a go. Not often we get to see an inter-team rivalry, but it looks like you weren't giving Jean the easiest of lines, going and holding that inside continuously, and that seemed to be your game plan throughout the race. Did you feel the BMW had that drive, that torque, and that grip on the inside? And how was it to go shoulder to shoulder with your teammate in Heat 1? It looked like the two of you gave just enough room to slightly give each other a high five, but at the same time, you were definitely hungry to hold those apexes.
Yeah, I mean, I think we both made little errors in the first race. That was the one we were kind of battling a little bit. But in the first, we both made errors going wide, and then we instead of slowing each other down, we were working together in a way. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's also racing, so there's always going to be a competitiveness. But yeah, we make sure we race safely and we don't take each other out. That's the important thing. That's the most important thing.
Well, I love to hear it, but now the serious question. 2 rounds to go, and after 4th in Heat 1, a 1st in Heat 2, you missed out round 3, but you're 2nd in the pro category on 418 points. Ahead of you, just Neeloff on 429. The chance of grabbing hold of a first place here in the GT3s, what's your game plan? We know the team about prioritizing and trying to work with one another, but you as a driver, what is your game plan to capture the gold?
I think I said it. I said it in the previous race that I've competed in. Obviously, missed the last one at Monza, but yeah, I think my plan is always strategy based. I focus on making the right the right pit decisions and the best pit times based on where am I going to come out and all that. So it's definitely strategy based, and I'll stick to that.
Well, it's definitely going to show. Before I let both of you go, I'm going to head back to Mr. van Rensburg. Jean, anything you want to say to our incredible sponsor, EG Evolved, Simulator Rigs, and also to the drivers, to the teams, and most importantly, the race fans out on the virtual grandstands that braved the conditions out there. I'm sure you saw them shivering in their raincoats, but cheering you on.
Yeah, look, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great stuff. Okay. Sorry, lost you for a second there of the raincoats. So, at least from, I think, most of the community, especially with EG Evolved, I think they've definitely leveled up the sim racing standard in South Africa, and that's fantastic. So, and them coming and supporting RaceFace is obviously great and greatly appreciated from customers and non-customers alike. So, yeah, I think to the virtual grandstands, people, as I've said before, people just need to get in and drive. And oftentimes you'll have more fun driving with the entry-level equipment than you do with the fancy equipment. The fancy equipment is fun, but it's all serious. Sometimes just get in, get something basic, and have fun. And the people you meet along the way will definitely make it worthwhile and push you to become the best possible driver that you can. So yeah, that's about all from me.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. And Malcolm, from your side, anything you want to say to the virtual grandstand, to our partner EG Evolved, and to the drivers out there? And any parting words you would like to say to your teammates? I know there's the inter-team rivalry, and, well, you can add a bit of spice. Just no swearing, but, I mean, there's always... someone's got to be driver one.
Yeah, no, I think John covered it in terms of he spoke well now, but yeah, I think obviously a lot of this wouldn't be possible without the sponsors, and that's great, and that's amazing and wonderful that they do that, and yeah, thanks to everybody watching. Yeah, and with John, we always we race together a lot, so we know there's always competitiveness, and it'll keep going forward. The competitiveness will continue going forward.
Absolutely well done. And we've got a special message coming out for you, Malcolm. Well done, my boy Malcolm. Love you and so excited. Regards, Dad. So wonderful, wonderful news, and wonderful to Mr. Rory. Well, welcome and well done to your son, Malcolm. And Sean, thank you so much for joining us. And I hope that you guys have a brilliant one. Can't wait to see you guys coming back for round 5.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers, Stephen.
Wonderful, wonderful words. And it's always fantastic to have family reaching out and saying, hey, well done out there. Good job. Great one. But let's have a chat to a driver that got a brilliant run on drivers in Heat 1, but got bitten in Heat 2. Let's have a chat to our fastest driver, but a driver that got caught out. Justin Elof, welcome to the commentary box. Not the first time we've had a chat today, but let's start off with the Heat 1 gamble, because that was a monster of a gamble. The rest of the field pitted, and you stuck it out to the very end. Take us through the plan there, and also, I've got to ask, were you sweating? Because it looked like fuel in Heat 1 was a major, major concern.
Yeah, no, Heat 1, I kind of didn't think you would make it to the end, and I saw it was close, so I just decided to fuel save from like lap 1 basically. Then the incident happened with in front of me on T1. My hit vessels got some damage. Lots of chaos happened there. I think I was lucky to get out alive. But yeah, after that, lots of understeer, and just I almost kind of gave up. I figured, okay, cool, I'll probably get 4th, maybe 3rd if I'm lucky, if someone pits, because it didn't look like anyone else was saving. I assumed Vessels was saving a lot because of his gap, but apparently he didn't. So when I saw everyone pull in to pit, I was like, oh, great, that worked.
With that being said, I mean, great racing out there, and it was an incredible, incredible run with Heat 1. But let's go to Heat 2. You were the quickest out there. What was the tire strategy? Because it looked like you waited, went in a bit early, swapped to a new set of tires, and held the fastest lap time, just dropping those seconds every step of the way. I mean, what was the game plan with the pit stop first in your initial start? We'll get to the end where the chaos kicked in.
So it was very tough to decide whether to go with the slicks or the wets at the start of the race. I'm sure the other guys mentioned the same thing. And I kind of, we have a fuel limit, right? So we can't put too much fuel into the cars. And basically I gambled on the wets, and then I just had to drive far enough into the race so that I could put enough fuel into the car to make it to the end. And that's basically at the moment I saw there was enough empty room in the fuel tank, I came in, because ideally you would have wanted to come maybe 4 or 5 laps into the race instead of like 7 or 8. And yeah, from there I just kind of drove. fortunately, I think it was Rensburg got a black flag going into the pits, so that was just very fortunate timing. And then Malcolm had the spin, so yeah.
That being said, now we're going to get to the heartache because
Yeah.
you were the fuel master in Heat 1, but Heat 2, what happened out there? It looked like it didn't quite get that extra lap you needed.
Yeah, so the whole race was flip-flopping between whether we're going to do 24 or 25 laps, based on, and it's just based on how fast the leader is driving. So I think about halfway through the second stint, I realized the only way to beat Malcolm is if he makes a big mistake, and I can take the lead and slow down a lot. And that's what the moment he spun, I thought, great, okay, now I can use the 7-second gap and just drive really slowly to try and get the laps down to 24 instead of 25. And it ticked down to 23 on my, in air quotes, second last lap. And then as soon as I crossed the line, I didn't get the last lap flag. And I think if I just lifted off the throttle, just drove like a second slower, then it would have happened. So that was just a mistake on my end. There was no need for me to drive as fast as I did. I had 5 or 6 seconds to Malcolm. I could have easily given up another 3 or so and ensured that we don't go to the extra lap. But yeah, we did, and because of that, I had to pit. So it is a small mistake by me there, but there's lots of mistakes in this race. It's a difficult track on the wet.
Well, a still stellar drive, getting a 1-2 for this evening. You lead out the championship points on 429. You got a bit of competition behind you. What is your game plan heading into the final 2 races to hold on to the championship, to walk away the champion here at RaceFace.Pro for the iRacing GT3 Championship Season 2?
I guess the plan is the same as always. Try to win the race, right? I think the Lambo should be okay at VIR, Virginia, the next track. So hopefully that goes okay. And then I think for Bathurst, it's just going to be try to survive. I don't think the Lambo is very strong there, but we'll see. It's just try to do the best I can, try and avoid the chaos. Full reverse grid at Daytona was interesting, to say the least. Yeah, that's basically the plan.
Well,
Lap by lap.
25 positions climb up in the second heat. Not bad at all. Justin, before I let you go, anything you want to say to our partner EG Evolve Simulator Rigs, to all the drivers and teams out there, and most importantly, and I think you agree with me on this one, is the incredible grandstands that braved the weather here tonight to watch some of the epic racing here at RaceFace.Pro in the iRacing side.
Yeah, I mean, again, thanks for organizing the event. Thanks to everybody who's participating as well, all the drivers. It's I know we can get hot-headed about incidents, but it's all of us together that make the racing happen. So that's great. Thanks to all the people watching. I mean, that's obviously nice to have the support, and as always, thanks to my dad for watching all my races.
Absolutely incredible. Justin Nieloff having a great run here tonight, being the Fuel Master saver, and also, unfortunately, getting bit back at the top, looking to take the gold in the championship. What an incredible evening, folks, we've had, and what an incredible time. But that brings us to the end of our race here for round 4 at Daytona, as we say farewell to the beautiful beaches of Daytona, and we head over to Virginia International Raceway. Looking forward to a bit of fun out there. A tight and twisty circuit in through the hills of Virginia is going to test our drivers to stand at the top and see who exactly can be the winner at the end of it. Maximum points to be scored, and our drivers are at the ready. Folks, it's been an incredible time. I would like to say thank you very much to our partner, EG Evolve Simulator Rigs. If you're looking for some of the best hardware, whether you're into driving sims, racing sims, or even flight, they have got you covered on all sides of the price, and also locally built aluminium frame rigs, or if you want to go for something a little bit spicy and across the waters all the way from Australia, they've got you covered and will get you sorted with professional advice on how to get yourself up to the top. Folks, it's been incredible here at RaceFace.Pro. I'd like to say a big thank you to our admin, to our drivers, and to all the teams joining us here this evening, but also to those going and watching out on the virtual grandstands. You petrol heads that keep us coming back more and more throughout the entire time. We look forward to seeing you back here at RaceFace.Pro. Make sure you hit the subscribe button along with the bell notification icon and leave us a like if you enjoyed the racing here tonight, but also let us know what was your favorite part to the race and the top drivers. Chris Santos saying, also caught out by the one lap, not going to happen again. I'm going to get it next time. It's wonderful to hear drivers at the ready, drivers ready to charge their way to the front, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys returning yet again here at RaceFace.Pro. We'd like to say good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and most importantly, good night, everybody!